So, Tēnā koutou katoa, ko o tāko, ko o waho ko huhara ki nui o mata awa, ko ihi pate moana, ko Waitai Pori, kinga painga o tātou e mahi nei, ko Port Mantuka ingoa, ko au te marikura o tēnei ko Arenora, nā tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Hi everybody and welcome to the Waitai Community Board meeting. Would you like to join us for our opening karakia? Once. Yeah. All right. So I'd just like to ask everybody if you'd like to stand with me again for a moment of silence for recently departed Bob Todd, who was the chair of the Hagley Ferry Meet, which included part of what is in this now community board area. And he lived in Wilson and was a really strong part of the Wilson community, Labour Party, the EPMU, that's just Engineers Union, and a very strong advocate for our community. So we'd just like to recognise him. A moment of silence. Thank you very much. Do we have any apologies? I have an apology. If we aren't finished by 6:45, which we usually aim to be, I will have to leave. No other apologies? No. Someone like to move that my apology be accepted? Moved by Greg, seconded by Alex. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, so I have a declaration of interest to make. So I have an interest in item 12 on the board rep on the actors board, and I participated in discussion about that item at that board. I didn't participate in the decision making, but I'm still going to step away and not participate in discussion on decision making. Do we have any other declarations of interest? None, Smith. All right. So that will be noted. Now move to confirmation of the previous minutes. Someone like to move that the minutes of the 10th of March. So that's Greg and Jackie. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Thank you. It's carried. All right. Thank you. So now we move on to public forum. Public forum is 5 minutes where people can come and share with us just about anything they like. So it's 5 minutes including questions, and that this is for an item that isn't on the agenda, but it can be just about anything. So first, I'd like to call up Mike from Lake Terrace Road. Are you here, Mike?
Okay.
Regarding Lake Terrace Road, the General Manager of the Christchurch Golf Club.
Yeah.
Right.
The drives work.
Right, thank you. I happen to be quite familiar with this road. I go there on the way to the gym and I can see why you're asking. Great, well, good afternoon and thank you for allowing me to speak. Have you received my brief email? Do I need to go through that again? So essentially, I think you know the issues. We've got
up to 500 crossings a day. That particular stretch of road has become increasingly a thoroughfare linking the city with the eastern suburbs. As a golf club, we did entertain, as Kelly will talk to, that we wanted to engage with the City Council to install traffic lights. The price of those was eye-wateringly expensive, unbelievable. I can see why the rates are so high. So we walked away from that because, we talked about a contribution towards that. It was way beyond us. So here we are, and we really want to talk about speed humps with a view to try and just slowing down that traffic. My personal view is the positives will slow the traffic. The negative side, I guess, from the community point of view is there could be delays, there could be a bank up of traffic. I'm not sure what your view on the bus route is. Buses don't like bouncing along humps, etc. So I think there's quite a lot of issues to talk about. From our point of view, we are in a position, if we have to make a contribution. So I thought I'd come and talk to you first, rather than the City Council. Just really to see what your views are, what you're thinking. Kelly?
No, I'm going to wait for the chief.
If you're happy to take a question from Councillor Barbie, go for it.
Mike, thanks for coming along. Obviously, you're talking about the Christchurch Golf Club, but can you characterise your members and the people you're particularly concerned about?
So we have an ageing demographic. Average age is 62 to 65, getting older, slower, increasingly at risk, and it's becoming a major concern. It's a miracle that nobody has been killed yet, but I personally think it's a matter of time before someone is seriously injured.
And so, obviously, if there was a school on one side of the road, we'd be very quick to put something to keep young people. But what are your thoughts on the type of intervention you'd like to see? I mean, a zebra crossing, perhaps. Is that what you think would solve it?
We think speed humps probably approaching and going away from. If you stand on the crossing where we cross, it's quite difficult to see oncoming traffic that approach around the corner. What concerns me is when I'm there once or twice a week, people don't travel at 50 k's, and I know you might find it amusing, but people actually speed up when they see our members. I think they think that scares them, but anyway, it's concerning. I often see cars travelling at in excess of 80 k's easily, sometimes more. It's a racetrack. So my concern is that, is there going to be serious harm? I've also put in a health and safety concern to the City Council. So City Council are aware that we've registered this as a health and safety risk. I don't know what their view on that is, but with advice from the councillor here, I've done that. And here I am today.
All right, we have a time for another question for Greg, and then maybe Councillor Lee.
When the Island House was held here, the road was shut. Was part of that due to the potential of crossings being a hazard for players?
Well before my time, Greg. I don't know. How long was that ago? 50 years ago?
It was 1990, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more cars on the road now. So I know that stretch was closed during the tournament to would have been to stop spectators getting on, but also I would imagine to allow for safe crossing for the leading amateurs of the world.
Probably. Sorry, can't.
Sorry, we're out of time, but we can refer this to staff for investigation and response, and we'll come back to you.
Great. Great. Thanks for hearing me.
Pleasure.
Because there's a budget request, can the board make a submission to the annual plan?
We've already made our submission, so and this might seem crazy, but how about the people who are sitting around the annual plan table make a request during the debates, like somebody. we can't make a resolution from this.
No, but the problem is that if no one raises it during the submission process, we're told it will be ruled out of order because no one's asked for it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just do a supplementary as the board chair to say, or as a board, to say this is something that's now been raised since, we'd just like to add it to our submission, that will give us the.
Well, we can't do that, but I'm happy to make a send and email letting it know that we would like it. I mean, it's a minor safety improvement. There is a budget for minor safety improvements. So, and we have asked, as you might be aware, we have asked for an increase in the minor safety improvement budget. So I think it fits within that. All right. Thanks. So next we have Nigel McFall, Tato Community Initiative. So, Nigel. 5 minutes, including questions. Floor is yours.
No worries. Kia ora. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. So I'm building a community initiative at the moment, which we call Tato, which is we, us, all of us, which sort of sums it up quite nicely. There's quite a few moving parts to it, but the main one is the food network. So we're currently working with providers of meat, produce, wonky box produce, and the local butcher to provide bulk purchasing in a way where the community can divide it up and reduce costs. So it's about tackling the cost of living. I guess that the thing that we really need as a community is an income coming in for the community itself to allow us to keep getting cheaper and cheaper food into the communities that need it. And so the way, one of the ways that I have seen that as a possibility is talking to local council about jobs that they may currently have under arrangement with contractors to be given back to the community. So that might be simple, removing graffiti or public spaces, maybe a little reserve that they can mow the lawns or look after the facilities in a way where a situation where it's a financial win for the ratepayers in reduction to cost, but also a cohort payment in regards to looking after whatever we may get. Now, I do understand contracts and tenders, and I know it's not as easy as just saying, hey, here's some work. It would be pretty much just a new concept. All that sort of thing will be tied up already. I guess what I'm doing here today is put that seed into the council's mind that, there is a way of doing it. I guess with me now leading this initiative, I have the will to make it happen, I guess, really. So that when your future tenders come up, maybe the council can look at it prior to going out and seeing what jobs could be provided back to community in order to address some of those cost of living issues. But, yeah.
Jackie, you have a question?
Thanks for coming in. I just have 2 questions today. What other agencies are you aware of that have the ability to provide food to your community at low or no cost?
Yeah, I don't know. I think talking to people within the community itself, there has been funding cuts in regards to food boxes and things they used to get for no cost. So that is an issue. But I guess the way I see things is I don't think people want to keep getting handouts. I think they need an opportunity where they can buy food for themselves and their families with their own money. So providing another option where we can get reduced costs, I guess, is where we do that.
So where are you looking for you want council to fund this?
No, I'm not. I'm asking the council to think about when these community projects go out for tender, such as reserves and parks, etc., whether they could see what parts of that could be taken back to the community, as I say, like a small reserve or some small job,
Right.
to get that income.
Yeah, that a lot of small reserves are actually looked after by the community voluntarily.
No, I'm not aware of that. So, I mean, if that's not an option, I guess it's just looking at other things.
And
I'd say the
community gardens, you're aware of the community gardens that we have around the city that are funding and providing produce at very low cost or no cost to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a place for all of that. This isn't sort of replacing something. What it's about is seeing what options there are available to get an income coming in for the community. That's the core thing.
Okay, so,
Just got it short.
all right, my understanding is you would like the community to do the jobs in the community but be paid by the council, thereby not requiring other people that are previously paid for doing those jobs to be doing them. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Just
so
trying to make it clear.
Yeah, that's right. So I'd be looking at things that currently contractors may be doing that can be done by the community, because the aim is that, you know, the community needs that income in order to address its needs.
Okay.
And constant handouts won't be the answer.
All right, well, thank you, Nigel. We've come to the end of the 5 minutes, but I appreciate your time and your care for your community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Cheers, fella.
All right, so now we move to deputations. Deputations are at 10 minutes, including questions, and they are for things that are on the agenda. So we have Beatrix and her neighbours who are all going to come up together to talk about one of the about item number 8, one of the shelter installations. So this is the outside the 314 Ballarat. 314? 214. Oh, sorry, that's printed on the agenda. Right.
We got one together 10 minutes or?
So together you have 10 minutes, so you can divide it up how you like. But if you want to, if you tell us what you want us to know, and then we can ask you questions, and we'll bear that in mind when we make our decision.
I will start and I will be quickly and look at the word.
It's all right. If you press the button in front of you, you see there's one that looks like a person with sound waves coming out. That's the one.
Okay, I'm excited to have this opportunity to draw the attention to my personal concerns regarding the plan in front of my property. The purpose of my words is to propose the board to reconsider this plan and find a safer and more comfortable place for that bus stop. Let me start by saying a few words about my situation. I work in a disability sector, and I work on night shift and transport clients. So my lifestyle is like working other times than normal. And when I get home in the morning, it's important for me to have a proper sleep. And installing that shelter and bus stop in front of my property, it's a trouble for me. It's gonna bring and elevate the noise in front of my property. All my windows in the house, it's face to the Bauer Avenue. The gap between my rooms and my fence is less than 3 meters. And the passengers and the frequent bus stops is making noise, and it really concerns me and my health and well-being. I cannot neglect and skip my sleep pattern. It's really important. I need to perform without mistaking my job next workday. So this is about a negative impact of the sleep. And another one is the loss of privacy. As I said, all my windows and outdoor places facing to the Bauer Avenue. My fence is 138 centimeter high, which I was happy to buy this property in this condition, which gives me a nice feeling with a fully fenced property, but at the same time I feel not isolated, and I like the surroundings around my house. So I really don't want to change it to a higher fence or having plants and trees around the house, because there is no place for that. So the shelter, if it's installed in front of my fence, is going to be blocking my view from my living room, from my outdoor area as well. And this is my concern. And even if the passengers in the bus at the stop, they are going to have an extended period of time to look into my property, which is concerning my privacy there. And another, my concern is if this installation improvement is there already, I would not buy my property now. I bought my house a year ago with these conditions, without without shelter, and I am really happy to live in here and in this condition. And I think that way, others, if in case of selling my property, it would be the value dropping. And I will just pass the next concerns to my neighbors. They have other English schools. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Further to what Beatrix has said, I believe that one of the main reasons you're moving it back there is because it costs more to move the parapole. I think from a safety perspective, that one little block there is the busiest block of Bauer Ave. It's U-turns there all the time. There's school traffic, 2,000 kids go to that school. I think you'd be better off to move it back and allow the kids to use the back entrance. I also think that I don't know why you'd want to put it outside a set of units rather than a single dwelling where we have 8 vehicles that come and go from that driveway each day. I'd rather see that it was moved before Saltair rather than right in that prime spot. You're going to use the bus stop. It's going to take away 3 parks and give us back 2, so we're going to lose 1. And it's already hard enough for everyone doing U-turns at the dairy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak. I'll just add that I agree completely with Beatrix and Lani about how busy it gets here. There are a lot of students around this area, plus the people going in and out of there's a shop on the corner of Bauer Ave, and people are always parking kind of around where the bus on the other side is, I suppose, and on our side to try and run across and buy chicken and chips and bits and pieces and then run back. So it's really quite crowded there, and I agree that there would be a better place than the proposed spot.
All right, are you happy to take questions now? Right, Celeste?
Thank you for coming in. Which place do you think would be better? Because I know that from reading the report, there was some challenges either side because of the current location, as I understand. Like you said, the power pole is a problem. But were there other spots that you thought were more suitable?
228 to 230.
228 to 230.
That allows them to get off before the corner, not in that's the busiest part of Bauer Ave. It allows the school kids to use the back entrance of the school.
Alex, and then Joe.
Forgive me, I don't know the bus routes off the top of my head. I think I know the 80 goes down there and then the 60 goes the opposite way past the medical centre. But would you have concerns for people that are trying to access the bus to get to the medical centre if it's pushed back to 228 or 230 Bauer Ave?
I think that everyone that has to use or uses the bus knows they have to walk a little bit. I think that little bit extra is going to make a lot of difference when you're looking at the safety reasons of it. I mean, a lot of people get off that bus with their headphones on and they just cross the road and they're not even looking, and you've got everyone. So when everyone comes from, say, the river end and they drive up there, if they miss a park there, they always do a U. Because they're trying to get that park outside the doctors. There's only 2 parks. You're going to give us back those 2, but take 3 away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
Sorry, my question was about the same as Alex's. Have you noticed if many people with mobility issues use that line? Just because, the access to the doctors without them having to cross a road to get there. I think that's why the placement was there.
At the doctor's office, there is a parking lot, and usually clients are using the parking lot.
Yeah, but if they can't drive, they'll take the bus. Have you noticed anyone take the bus?
No, not really. Mostly see school students.
They would have
predominantly school students that are catching the bus. But the side that we're on, that we're talking about, I guess, is the opposite side of the road, regardless of how far along it is. I think you can also walk from is it the back entrance of the school? there's actually a walking track
Yeah,
that
there's
goes
two
around the
entrances.
back and down towards the medical centre. You can actually walk all the way along there without having to cross dangerous intersections.
It's just quite far for people.
It would mean
So-
walking another 2 or 3 houses.
So have you talked to
Yeah.
Martin about what his thoughts are of it outside his house?
No.
The current location,
Yeah.
the front one.
Yeah.
No, I haven't either.
Okay, thank you.
Alex has a follow-up.
Yeah, sorry, I was just thinking, because there's actually the medical centre, so there's also obviously the one with the dental, that's one I was talking about. So that backhand track, I don't think would get there. I think you're talking about in relation to Travis. Yeah,
Yeah, which is the busier one, yeah. There is the one here on the corner too, the dentist and, yeah.
yeah, thanks, I just wanted to clarify that.
Right, do we have any further questions? Well, no further questions. So what we'll do is, because we're making the decision on this today, and we'll bear what you have said in mind when we make the decision. And we have, so if the board was minded to, we could delay the decision, or we could ask for further advice, or we could just refuse it or something like that. But the board will discuss that later on in the meeting. You're welcome to hang around, but there are quite a few bus stops to discuss, so just a point. All right, we're out of time, Kelly.
I know it's a process.
We'll come back to this.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. We do like to hear from people who are affected by these decisions, and happy to have you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And if you're not wanting to stay the whole time, Cindy will email you the outcome of the decision, so you'll find out easily.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the wastewater treatment plant briefing. So we have Adam and the team. Let's see you again. Procedural question, yes.
But
Just here.
So no, if you need to ask it.
okay,
the
is the
meeting.
proposed strike included in this? Because if it is, I might have to declare a conflict.
I think you just better to note that, and you're not making any decision, but
No.
it's just better to, we can make sure that it's noted.
Thank you.
Because I think, sorry, given, it was mentioned at the last presentation that I was at, and it is a factor, but you just, so Alex has just said that Alex is an employee of Etu Union, and he has a conflict of interest, so won't be asking any questions or discussing that aspect of presentation, just so that everybody's aware. But yes, good to pick that up, and that'll be noted.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me again. Obviously, my name's Adam Turge, Manager of Operations. I look after the treatment plant, here to give the monthly update on where the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant is up to. Fairly standard agenda there. So the odor monitoring results, we have the 4 community sites out there in the community. All those are measured continuously for hydrogen sulfide, which is an indicator of odor. All that information is captured every 2 weeks. It's then reviewed, checked and uploaded onto the website. What's the performance been like recently? The graph up there shows the hydrogen sulfide results for the 4 community sites for the week between the 23rd and 30th of March. As you can see, there's regular occurrences of very low odour detection of hydrogen sulfide that's still going on there. That is expected, as this is the tail end of the temporary activated sludge plant repairs, which I'll touch on later. The temporary activated sludge plant was brought back fully into service on the 28th of March. So you can see during that period when the temporary activated sludge plant was offline, the effects on odour generation was still low. And after that, arguably you could argue that it's slightly lower still. How do we compare in this year for that last week period from 2025 to the year before in 2024? What we've noticed is we've gone from the short, sharp peaks of significant short-term odour events to sort of a much lower, but occasionally more frequent odour events. Why that is exactly, we're not entirely sure, but we think it's just general improvements of everything that's going through. And that is a consistent trend that we're seeing all the way through. just touching on the temporary activated sludge plant repairs, so just for your reference, that is mainly those 4 big tanks in the bottom sides, and just for reference, those things are 50 metres in diameter and 6 metres deep, so they are fairly hefty pieces of kit. So what have we been up to in the month of March? So both of those clarifiers, which are the 2 on the bottom left, they were taken offline one after each other, had the repairs done and returned to service. So they were fully returned to service on Friday, the 28th of March. The biological treatment in there has settled down, so it's now starting to perform well again. And it was a good project. Absolutely everything that we wanted to find that had gone wrong, we found it in the right places. We didn't find anything significantly worse either. And all the repairs went in, very competent contractor went in, resolved all the issues that we went in to tackle. What were we going in to repair? So round the outside of the channel is made of concrete sections, and then each of those sections is connected together with a joint. That is my full civic knowledge. I'm not an engineer. Reason why we're doing this on the left is a before photograph. So you've got the 2 concrete panels, and then you've got the joint between it, which you put some material in, which seals it up. And on the left there, you can see where it's been failing. You can actually see some daylight coming through it. On the right is a couple of pictures, so nice green arrows indicating those. We emptied the tank, we drained it, contractor went in, scraped it all clear, scraped the joint out, put the new joint material in, and has gone through and checked it all. So that's now been completed on all the tanks, so they're all nice and sealed and back in service. Why have we done this? So this aerial image here is just an aerial image of the clarifier when it was in service, when it was just the one. And as you can see in the bottom right of the pitch, you sort of got some like brown murkiness in the water. What this demonstrates is you cannot run this system on just one tank. You need both tanks in service for it to work properly, which confirms to us that the work we're doing is needed and we're doing it as we can. So second bullet point, the bearing, which is where that red arrow is pointing, is a big lump of metal right slap bang in the middle of the tank. And those 2 arms indicated by the goldy arrows, they hang off that bearing, and they go all the way down to the bottom of the tank, and there's arms there that suck in the sludge and whip it back to the start of the system. So that bearing is super critical because it holds everything that goes in that tank. No bearing, the tank doesn't work. What we need to do is we need to get all that mechanical stuff out to replace the bearing. The tank is 6 meters deep, and the groundwater in the area is only about a metre and a half down, which means that to empty that tank, you've got 4 meters of buoyancy, which is trying to force the tank up and out the ground. So we need to make sure we can fully dewater, empty the tank to do in the bearing repair. So that's why we're doing all those repairs before, was to stop the water getting into the groundwater so that we didn't pop the tank out of the ground. So we are in the best position possible to do the same thing again next year to get that bearing fixed. Moving on to the rest of the site, the oxidation ponds, the aerator status. On the left-hand side, the green arrows show the planned maintenance for those disc aerators. So you can see we undertook planned maintenance on the 7th of March, the 17th of March, and the 25th of March across a number of the aerators. Unfortunately, the big red blocks also indicate where the reactors went off for reactive work. So you can see that we're still having a number of problems with those. I understand that disc aerator number 4 was the contractor is on site today working on that one. Sorry, what's the date today? 7th, sorry. Yeah, sorry, 7th. Vertical shaft aerators, these are the main ones that put the significant amount of oxygen into the pond. As you can see, we've managed to do a full month with no reactive maintenance, so they're a lot happier, and the contractor is still undertaking that planned maintenance. The pond health, so I'll just read that bit. So the pond health was reduced as a consequence of the temporary activated sludge plant being reduced to 50% capacity during the temporary activated sludge being down. However, the margin shown as an improvement since that date. So top 2 photographs, it's nice and green. Green means lots of algae. Algae in the sunlight generates lots of oxygen, keeps the ponds nice and oxy, it stops any odour generating. However, what you can see on the bottom 2 photographs is in places, it's a little bit murky, it's a little bit grey. That's indicative of the heavy load. So the bypassing the temporary activated sludge plant, pushing a bit of loads into the ponds and just making them work a little bit harder, which is what's shown a little bit better on here. So what I'll do is I'll send the PowerPoint around afterwards because this photograph is a bit clearer on the screen. It's not come out particularly well on the presentation, on the projector, sorry. So what we are noticing, the ponds in some places are struggling as a result of the large amount of load that's being passed to it. So this is pond 4, so you've got the state highway on the left there. And if you can look at that picture, so you've got the green algae, which is sort of coming from the algae from the island in the top left and moving across to the right-hand side of the screen. So that's the main flow of the flow through the pond, and that's nice and green with the algae. The great big area in the middle is sort of the grey where it's heavily loaded, and you can also see those clumps of black sludge that's sort of coming up and rising to the surface. So in certain circumstances, if that becomes significant, that can reduce in odour generation. And all those white dots on the right-hand side is lots and lots and lots of seagulls. The seagulls would not be there if there was no food there, which indicates they're there picking off all the midges as they come out of the water. So midges are a bit of an indicator, so the pond's reasonably happy as well. If the pond's really unhappy, there won't be enough oxygen, you just won't get the midges. Moving on to the midge control. Previous month and the month before, I informed you that we're putting a programme together to improve our monitoring, which allowed us to alter the water quality flow through ponds. So that design has now been progressed on the left, which is a concept drawing that we put together in operations, and it's been moved across to detailed, design drawings on the right. So on the left, nice high level concept, pretty pictures what it is. On the right is something that you can actually give to an engineering construction firm that can actually go away and put a price against it and do the installation for us. Also have to inform you that the project has been transformed from being led by operations, so it's been taken off from being led by me and my team across the capital delivery team, with the project manager being put over the top of it. Odour product trial, as you're aware, we had a number of suppliers that approached us offering products which could resolve a number of the odour issues coming from the site. We're up to stage 3 of that trial. That trial is forecast to be undertaken between April and July. We grab a sample. In the picture showing is when we did a small 20 litre sample trial. The next trial is a full 1,000 litre trial. So that's underway. I said that the letters are to come back to suppliers this week. Nope, I managed to finish that off this afternoon. So those letters are going to go out. So those dates of the April to July are far more confirmed. Also, last month, I touched on the fact that some of the other activities we do, we get some divers, stick them in a boat, send them 2.5 to 3 kilometres out to sea. They go over, dive down 20, 30 metres and undertake inspections and maintenance work and check the barnacles off our outfall diffusers to make sure that all the treated effluent can get into the sea in a safe, efficient, compliant manner with our resource consent.
How deep is it out there? Because like about 40 knots, it's about 100 metres, but it drops off pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's 20 to 30 metres. I can find out the exact figures if you'd like. It's not a job I would do. What we've done this month is we, again, got another boat, and this time, instead of putting divers on board, we put some of our lab staff. They go out and they go and collect samples from the sea above the outfall so they can take those and monitor it and record it, again in line with our resource consent to demonstrate the effects of the effluents going to sea and make sure it stays within our resource consent conditions. Websites update, we continue to do that. Again, I'll just flag, we've got an awful lot on at the moment, so we haven't quite put as many updates as there as we would like. However, what we have done is we had the first meeting with the neighbours of the wastewater treatment plant was held on the 1st of April. We've taken a couple of actions away from that we're still working on site and with our colleagues across the City Care Depot. So those are underway and fully anticipate for those to continue. Yes, ETU strike notice. So this is the information I've been provided from, and this is what I'm almost going to read verbatim from. So on the 24th of March, Council received a strike notice by the ETU Incorporated for 13 members employed by the Christchurch City Council, which is this maintenance team at the treatment plant and also the drinking water sampling team. The strike period notice covers from Tuesday the 8th to Saturday 12th of April inclusive. So that starts at midnight tonight and will finish on midnight Saturday to Sunday. While Council recognises the right of ETU members to strike, Council is disappointed that the matter was escalated to notice strike action, and we understood that mediation has been left open. Both parties are still working towards an amicable agreement. As a result of this notification, Council has prepared contingency plans at the wastewater treatment plant to continue cooperations during the strike. comfortable that essential services will be maintained and disruption will be minimal. Council remains committed to achieving a fair and reasonable settlement with their 2 members. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Adam. Joe's question, and then I've got.
Just one question on the ocean outboard data that they're gathering.
Yes.
Is that available somewhere? And
Yes, it is. As soon as it's done, we obviously pass it through to ECAN, and then we publish it on our wastewater treatment pages.
how often?
Quarterly?
In the consent condition, we need to do it every 2 years, but we also try to do 1 year as well, each year we go out.
Oh, okay, annually. Thank you.
So what do we do quarterly?
Quarterly it's different, quarterly is another type of sample, and we also collect the beach sample every week as well.
Yeah.
So all the receiving environment is all monitored regularly.
Thank you.
I thought there was quite a biofilter smell in the air in Wainoni. But the wind, because I know which way the wind was going, because the wind was going a different direction. So I don't know if that was the plant or something else, but it did remind me of a biofilter smell.
Yeah, so it's very settled conditions today. Obviously, from all the smoke that's been flying around and staying around doesn't help, but it just demonstrates how settled the wind conditions are. We are moving into the winter period. It is, although we have had a few hot days, temperature is getting cooler, the algae is dropping off. The traditional mid-season, which relates to the amount of algae in the pond, when I started 8 years ago, was sort of like mid-March, and now it's sort of extended into April, which means the summer season's going long. So as we are now, we're sort of right in the middle of that transition period as we go from summer period to winter period. So the ponds are going through a massive biological change where all the algae is dropping off, which means there's less oxygen, but also conversely, the bacteria isn't quite as happy to work hard to reduce the load and generate the anoxic conditions. The observations that we've got, we don't think we're going to see a significant null event because the ponds are sort of healthier, the incidences are lower, but it may be happening. So that may be what's being picked up at this moment in time.
And my second question is really about, and then we come to Yanni, what are the contingency plans? So I mean, I asked this it's not something to this at the public meeting.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that the contingency plans are, if something goes wrong, that the whole thing's not going to fall over. Yeah. I know, I'm just asking that really to reassure the public.
Yes, certainly. So there's 250 staff within the whole of the Three Waters. This strike action affects 17 members. In the Three Waters operations area that I look after, I've got 50 staff, and we look after the water, wastewater stations, all the pump stations, the drinking water stations, and all the instrumental controls. The only team that's affected in my area is the CWTP maintenance team. We still have all the process engineers around, we still have all the team leaders, we still have all the operational staff went to site to operate the site, to keep it going. The only thing that's going to be not there as much is the maintenance team, which means that the planned maintenance will stop in some areas. However, the site is very large and very resilient, and there's some trickling filters, activated sludge plant aside, the site has lots of redundancy. So, for example, the example of redundancy is flows in the middle of the night are down at 1,000 litres a second coming in. In real big wet weather events, the flow is up to 10,000 litres a second. So the plant can tolerate a 10 flow increase in flow that's coming through. It's designed so that when flows come in, they go up. We can step up our treatment stages and we can also step them down. And when stuff goes up, it can build up, it can overflow to the next channel and the next channel and carry on going all the way through there. As a result of this, there will not be sewage flowing down the streets. We won't be going to residents and saying, please don't use your toilets.
Thank you. Yes, Jan?
Thank you. The last presentation, we had a number of different scientific measures of different things. And I was quite interested to know how we're progressing on being able to share those with the public, as a kind of dashboard indicators. So
yeah, I haven't looked at that whatsoever at the moment. I'm just trying to make sure I can get the structures in place to try and get that going before. So we're looking at the instrumentation, we're looking at civil structures. We haven't looked at trying to get all the connectivity into it yet.
So when's the time frame for the first water quality flow variation?
We're doing our best. I would like to get something in by October ready for next summer.
Right.
Because this is what we use to try and control images. So we're trying to get it in place before the next season.
And that's when we'll start getting better data in real time.
One thing I'd just like to refer to on that second one is the project's been transferred from operationals led to capital delivery led, which means that it's been taken away from our team where we're on the ground, we're doing bits and pieces to be transferred into council's capital delivery process, which has checks and balances and tends to sort of go a bit longer.
I guess it's just that when we get the data, it's really good to be able to share that with the community so they can see. So I really appreciate you putting the effort into getting better technology, better understanding of what's happening. I'm still just trying to get a sense of how we can share that with the public so they can see, what's happening. But
With everything that's going on, we're trying to get this across the line. The temporary activated sludge plant repairs, which has been taking us up for the whole of March, plus the industrial action that's been building, we haven't quite been to a point where we consider long-term impacts of projects.
Just a really random question associated to this, like not knowing all the technology that's available, but is there, and not knowing what budget's available, in terms of if you had a magic wand, or if resources and budget wasn't a constraint, is there any piece of technology that we could put in the air that would help the community better understand what was going on than what we've currently got proposed? Like, I'm just aware, like with the Port Hill fires, for example, we've had some really good technology that's gone into the Port Hills, for example. We give people better warning, better information to try and reduce the risk, obviously.
So what was that in the Port Hills?
The smart stations that got put in with all these sorts of measurements of air and odour, and I don't know what they use, but lots of sensors basically to.
So they have been in contact with us to see if there's any opportunity to join up on that. There was some degree of overlap, but not a lot. I think they're only proposing sort of like one of those smart posts in this area, which would possibly link up to us. But what we're doing with our hydrosulfide mortar is a lot more intensive and a lot more focused to what we're doing. So we have considered it to assess it, but I don't think there's any real benefit in joining up on that.
Right, thank you. And thank you very much, Adam, and as always, thank you to your team for keeping that going.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Good work.
Would someone like to move that we receive the briefing? Moved by Yanni, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. So now we move to item under number 8, which is the shelters. Now I did ask you to flag those that you wanted to discuss more. So I've only had the one on Woodham Road by the BP by Greg, and then this obviously the 214 Bower, and then 111 Estuary and 191 Estuary. Does anyone else have any others that you want to raise? So not general, but specific to a specific bus stop. Well, because like I don't want to.
It's a combination of general and specific.
Okay. No, you can't get it.
It's the corridor. It's the corridor. Basically.
It's the corridor.
It's one part of this report, which is the corridor along with it. Right.
Okay, can we come to the? Don't let me. No, you won't. But don't let me forget the corridor, and let's talk about the bus putting in installing the bus shelters first. Are there any others?
No, I was just going to suggest that we move all the others as well. If we don't have questions about it, we can move all the other ones.
So I'll just have to look at the motion. So.
And can I just interrupt this for a moment? I'm sorry. So one of the bus stops Greg had raised, if it's the will of the board and to move the bus stop over by a few mils so they can get to the services, there will be an amendment.
So we can amend it to 69.
Yes.
So before we move it, we can change the staff recommendation. Staff, if you'd like to join us at the table, but we will get.
So that I've done that in anticipation.
Yeah. So we'll get all the ones that we don't have any problems with out of the way, and then we can rather than. Right, so we've got, yeah, so we'll just wait for,
So I can create a new role to put in the stuff we don't want to vote on.
yeah,
That's not all the same.
Question for a couple of minutes.
we'll just adjourn for a couple of minutes while Cindy gets the resolution sorted.
Bear with me for a moment.
Right, we are back as Mawson around the world. Just being for the public, we're discussing the bus shelters, item number 8. And we've removed the ones that we want to discuss further. And so we have a resolution to pass all the ones that we're happy with. Would someone like to move that? Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair. Do we have a seconder?
Yes.
Alex?
Or did you want to second? You can second.
No, I'm gonna.
Well,
Okay, no worries. I'll second.
all right, do you want to debate that? No. Okay, well, a motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. So now we have, we will go to the corridor. You want to ask some questions about the corridor?
Yes, just how has the design of the bus stops incorporated the design of the Te Awatai cycle, the proposed Te Awatai cycle?
So yeah, we have talked with the project manager. The design that they already have for the cycle lane is not the final one, and we investigated this, and it was fine that we do the bus stop relocation, and then they modify the design of some bus stop. So yes, that we have discussed this, and we have considered this.
So basically, we can't change the Te Awatai design, or we can?
We can do that. I think the initial design that they had will be different because the funding for that cycle lane will be different. So they are fine to modify the design based on this relocation.
Do we have, like, just given that decision is going to be made, within a couple of months, and given that it's going to go straight to construction, do we have an overlay of what the new design will be with the proposed bus stops?
Well, no, we don't have it at the moment.
Just people were concerned at the time.
Yeah.
That there was a conflict between the cycleway and where the buses pulled in, and some people raised really serious safety concerns about the cyclists and the buses going in the same area, particularly around where it was really busy and congested with pick up and drop off from the college. So I guess I'm just really concerned that just to understand the safety implications of what we're doing in regards to where the proposed cycleway is going. And if people haven't seen where the cycleway is going, in terms of the consultation on the bus stops, then how do we know if the public views are well informed or not, because they don't have that other piece of information?
Well, I think that the construction of these bus stop location will happen soon, so we will have it on the new plans for the cycle lane. The other thing is that there are a couple of actions that can be considered in the design, making sure that the cyclists and bus are aware of each other, like placing the green surfacing before and after the bus stop. So what I'm saying is that the design for that cycle lane hasn't been finalized, and both projects are aware of each other. So the projects are talking to each other, and they are fine to make sure that the design is incorporated appropriately with its location.
Is this about this one? Yep.
It seems a little counterproductive to put a bus stop in and then change the major cycleway through there. Should we not have it put forward to start with and design them both at the same time? If we're trying to spend money on putting something in that may not be in the ideal situation and having to shift the road network around that.
So what I'm saying is not like there's going to be a big change in that cycle lane. It's just the bus stop being in a different location. Like it's already in front of that new development. So we are just relocating things. What I saw in the design, the initial design of the cycle lane, was that when interfacing a bus stop, they had the cycle lane to come through the sidewalk, and then after the bus stop to go back to on the road. But this was under the initial funding of the project and was pushed by the funding provider. But now that the funding source has changed, the design also might be different and becomes similar to what we already have. when we have a bus stop and a cycle lane. So that's what I'm saying. But
I just want, can you assure the board that we're not going to end up with a whole bunch of changes to the bus stops that we are potentially approving? Now, I guess that's what we want to know, like.
100% likely. There is not a big change to that project because of this relocation. And we have like talked with the project.
Okay, and yeah, you had one about the Rona Street one, Buckley's Rona.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, well, just in regards to this Waitai design, like, given now that council's funding it, and it's a local project, the board didn't approve that design, so because it was the transport choices, it went straight to
No,
council.
sorry, I think that you're muddying the waters here, but can we focus on, so we've been asked to make a decision on the bus stop. Can you
Yes.
ask a question about the Rona Street?
Yeah, so just about the bus stop, all I wanted to know is, will the board get a chance to see the design with the bus stop and the proposed cycleway before it gets built, before it goes to construction?
For the old Windsor.
Yeah, so for this one in particular, at some point, will we be able to see what the impact is of the bus stop and the cycleway design together so that we can see what's the ultimate outcome?
I think you would sure have for like any other projects that will go, and we have these bus stop constructed before that, you will have the effects of those bus stops on the.
My assumption is that even if it'll either be us or it'll be the council. So the council could be making the decision. But we definitely are making this decision. So either it's going to be us making a decision on the Waitai cycleway, or it's going to be the council. So either way, it's not going to just happen without elected member oversight.
Okay, yeah, I think we were told to raise concerns to the community board about the design. Sorry, to the community board. But okay, just in terms of Rona Street, just that area is like really busy and congested. I'm now seeing, I think some of the bus companies are actually parking their cars outside Eastgate and just staying there for I don't know how long. Has there been an assessment done? Because we've had a lot of issues with the Norwich Street bus thing. So I'm just wondering, did you do any safety or any sort of thought into just the congestion of the buses and the access in the driveways?
Well, so are we talking specifically about that this was stop or?
Yeah, just specifically about the one next to Rona Street.
Well, so speaking of like bus stops and the driveways, we generally try to avoid having them interrupting driveway or being close to driveway, but sometimes it happens due to the limitations space that we have. And in these sort of situations, we try to have the best in practice. For example, we sometimes a bus stop in trouble or it's close to a private house. So if we have to, we go with these. But if it's close to a business driveway or a medical center driveway, we try to avoid that because there are more number of people using that driveway per day. So this is our general approach. And when we investigating different bus stop for each, we consider this point. We try to investigate if there is an interruption with the driveway, whether there is a way to improve that. And yeah.
Is this the one outside St. Chad's?
It's Pamela Street, Rona Street. So it's not by St. Chad's. It's just
The other side of the road.
Oh, no, it's the same side of the road, St. Chad's, but it's further down towards Rona Street. But I just couldn't tell from the diagram around the driveway access into the new builds and the existing builds how close the buses, because what we had in Norwich Street was buses were parking so close to people's driveways and using it as a layover as well, that the residents were actually terrified of coming in and out. Some board members will, I think, remember we had a lot of trouble with it because the visibility of the people coming out was just not there.
We try to avoid that, having those like timing points or layovers close to the driveways. We just proceed with those normal bus stuff where normally a bus is there only a few times per day and like for 20 seconds or something. So if there is a bus layover or a timing point which means bus is there for more than normal time, we try to avoid that.
So how, sorry, just from the design, just to be really clear, from where the bus stop is, how close is that to the driveway that goes into 67 and the whole 71, 71A? That where the bus looks at the moment, when the bus is stopped, it actually looks like really limited visibility from the people accessing.
So it's now 1 meter, which we are improving this. And I think, again, this bus is a normal bus stop, so the bus will be there only few times per day for a few seconds. So
it's moved back a metre further from, because at the moment it's right, almost right by the multi-unit
Middle of the driveway.
dwelling, so now it's a metre back, so that's an improvement.
Yeah.
All right, does that cover your ones, Yanni? All right, and so we've dealt with the Woodham Road one. Thank you for picking that one up, Greg. So then we've just got, was it 191 Estuary?
214 Ballard.
Oh, yes, no, we'll come to 214 Ballard. So 191 Estuary, was that one that you raised?
It's on hold, isn't it?
No, that is
111.
111 is on hold.
191's on hold.
Thank you.
191.
Thank you for sent through the information, so that one's.
So is that good to go?
I think so, yeah.
Right, so that, okay, so we'll come to 214 Ballard.
Yes.
So do you have any comment on that? Because you were here for the deputation, weren't you?
Yes.
So can you make any comment on that?
Yes, sure. So I generally acknowledge that many people don't like a bus stop or a shelter in front of their house. I quite understand this, but we have to also take care of PT users. So in that specific case, we have this bus stop is basically the most used bus stop in this county board area without a shelter. The current bus stop has operational issues. We have had requests from community to install bridge blocks, actually from elderly people, to make access to buses easier at this bus stop. But we haven't been able to do that because the location of the current power pole makes some buses stop before the power pole, so blocking the driveway of that property beside the bus stops. And I'm not talking about that being close to that, fully blocked that, and we showed this to the residents on site meeting that we had with these affected residents. And a few of buses will also go further closer to the entrance of the medical center, which is not safe because we are talking about the medical center with lots of entrance and exit move per day. We have shown to the residents that our option, actually the next block, like closer to the roundabout, or before that, closer to the intersection, are not feasible options because we don't have that required space for bus stops, so those will interrupt the driveways. And actually, we have the same question from the residents: where do you think would be best position to go there? And then they have that before the Salter estate, closer to the school entrance. But what they propose make the spacing with the existing bus stop. And what they propose like 50 meters, which I don't recommend that. And the other thing is that generally such a move will have adverse impacts on accessibility to that medical centers and to the shopping center, and also on the spacing. Similar cases we have had across the city, like the Avonhead Mall, and the bus stop is just like 200 meters from the mall, and we have had several requests from elderly people that can we have the bus stop exactly at where the mall is. So I don't recommend that, and I acknowledge all of those concerns. I can provide answers to all of those concerns that they raised, but I think this is the only possible option.
If we go to Celeste and Joe.
Can I just provide a little bit more context from the insight meeting? We've obviously met with anyone who wants to meet about these bus stops around the city. We explained that we may be able to shift the shelter, but due to the in-ground utilities, there's only two options. We kept it at this location outside of her house. So we explained the feasibility and what would happen if it was in front of her bedroom versus if it was in front of her outdoor space. kind of talk those through on site, but in terms of what Mansour and I can offer, it's quite limited because of the services on the street.
Right, Celeste.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you're going to Fiji to try to accommodate everyone. It's not easy. With the power pole, it might not be possible, but did we get an understanding of what the cost is?
No, we haven't. I think it's quite like expensive.
So is it sort of 10,000, 100,000?
I think it should be something between 10 and 20, but I can investigate that. But we may do these costs and still have objections from the residents beside the existing. Because their house is also very close to the fence. I'd say.
I thought the power pole, I must have it wrong, was actually where the existing bus stop is though, no? So therefore you would probably have less objections because it's a current stop.
It's just
it
would still need to be consulted on.
Still need to be consulted and like,
Yeah. And the second question is, you mentioned this, but I just want to understand it. So 228 is how far walking? Google Maps said about a minute. Is it about 100 meters or?
Walking from the previous stop or?
Yeah, so between 2 and 4 and 228, which is what they requested. What was the distance? You were walking?
I do just on that, I do have to wonder whether the reason that's sticking to this bus stop in the board area is because it's by the school. And that most of those passengers will be going to the school rather than the businesses and stuff. And so moving it closer to that back entrance will probably, but of course they'll also be the most physically able of all the passengers.
60, okay.
It's a long way.
Yeah, it's a long way. Is that something I understand proximity to the medical centre is important, but is that something we looked at? Did they request that? Did we look at that? Because sometimes things have been ruled out, but we don't have that information.
Yes, I think it was raised at our on-site meeting.
Okay.
We considered that and like we have to explain these.
Sorry, can I ask one final, just to understand?
Yeah, and then Joe, and then Greg, and then Kelly.
So in the reason to decline it, was it because of the distance, or was it because ECAN said, sometimes there's the route issues with?
So sorry, I just to double check, you mean that we have investigated or like consulted on such a?
Not consulted, but looked at the pros and cons of that alternative site.
So we have investigated this doesn't include us to like talking with the business on that. Yeah, we have investigated this and like from the experience of working on the other bus stops across the city that I explained, this is not a desirable. We will soon start to receive tickets from community.
It's also too close to the other bus.
I just wasn't understanding the rationale, because we don't have that detail.
Yeah, so the thing, like from the PT operations, it's better to remove these bus stop instead of relocating to that location that is.
Right, Joe and then Greg.
Yeah, just for the others that aren't aware, there is already a bus stop close to the entrance of QE2, so this one's just further down the road. So it would be, it wouldn't be worth doing that. But I'm just curious as to the existing bus stop. Have you talked to the resident that lives there?
No, we haven't talked because the current bus stop already has like clear operational issues and we haven't done.
Part of the reason we haven't consulted is because we're following quite a careful legislative process about installing shelters outside people's properties. So we've focused the consultation on those who are impacted from the new plans as opposed to removals. But if we need to talk to them as part of some kind of board decision, we would absolutely need to reconsult.
I'd really like you to talk to that resident because they're a friend of mine as well. And I do know that he has had issues with school kids throwing things over his fence and stuff in the city here. But I'm not sure if he'd get close to a shelter instead of just a seat.
I just caution members about asking for things for friends.
No, but I just like them to have that discussion with the resident who lives there.
That's definitely a principle I support.
It would depend on the outcome of consult, because decision today based on whether we could consult, but yeah.
We have a speaking order, and we've got people who've been waiting, so you can wait, I'm sorry. You don't, okay, Greg,
I'll let Alex go since it's related and I'll take a spot at the end.
okay,
Thank you, just so we don't.
I'm happy to wait after Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool. Sorry, taking you on, yeah. Just so we're not sort of mixing up bus stops. So can I also clarify, the reason why you're not going to the existing stop is that it's not fit for purpose where it is currently. So it's not the shelter going in, that's the problem, it's where it currently is.
Yeah, the bus actually will block the driveway because of where the power pole is.
Yeah.
So talking with that residents also is like subject to the feasibility of that power pole being able to be removed somewhere else. And also feasibility from those like technical point itself and also the financial issues.
Should be quite a few implications rather than just the one house.
Yeah.
all right. You done now? Okay, now, Greg.
I need to start my question.
Oh, sorry.
Callum,
Yeah.
you're good. All right, I think we might have exhausted the questions on that, so from the way I see it, like we're all in favour of the other ones passing. But for this one, we might want to, so the option is either
Well, I'll move it and see what happens.
No, I'm happy to see it. Is that first?
well, we have it, so you wanting to move, so I've said that the other ones we're happy to pass, so how about we do that first, so you've foreshadowed that you're going to move, the Barra one, but we'll move the other one separately. So we'll do that. So would someone like to move?
So 1 second.
Yep, just
So you're not looking to
You did the other ones, didn't you?
So all the other ones.
so who would like to move all the other ones? Okay, moved by, I think that's slightly beat you, Jackie.
Oh, I was scratching my head. But
Oh, okay, and then Jackie, moved by Jackie. Do we have a seconder?
I can think it.
Seconded by Celeste. All right, do we have any debates? No, okay, put that, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. And so now we'll come to the 214. We've had it foreshadowed, so Tim has moved it and Alex has seconded. Tim, did you want to speak to that?
Just briefly, I understand, like you said before, we don't like them outside their places, but they've got to go somewhere, and I think it's the best place. As in property value, I don't believe it'll drop the property value, and I'd like to prove that one day. So I'm supportive of it.
Would you like to speak to?
Yeah, well, everything that Tim said, but I also want to highlight the importance and the responsibility that we have elected members have in ensuring that our spaces are accessible for everybody. But we don't have the numbers specifically on how many users use the bus that need it in terms of accessibility, but I think it would be really short-sighted to move a bus stop further away, which would in turn actually make it closer to another bus stop and make the gap between the others further apart and restrict access to that medical centre. So for that reason, whilst I acknowledge obviously the concerns, I think we have a responsibility to pass this.
All right, does anybody wish to speak against it?
I mean, we always ask to hear from residents. We hear from residents directly. I happen to know the doctor that works at the medical centre. He's not too far from retiring. There's no guarantee that there'll be a medical centre here, given the state of the number of GPs in this country. Yeah, so I'm happy to leave it as it is, status quo. And so I might be supportive of the motion.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm the same as Kelly. I'd like it investigated further and to get more feedback from the existing residents around that place. And also just, you know, that bus stop has been there for a very, very long time and they've managed to work around the power hole. So can we not do that in the future?
Right, what?
I'm just going to stand back because when you talked about knowing the person in one of these properties, I know them quite well as well, and I don't feel it's appropriate that I know. But that's a separate, I'm just the one, so I'm just going to stand back.
Okay, up to you. So
Process question.
your process question, yes?
So if the board decides not to go ahead with it, can we foreshadow another motion where we have another option to investigate it?
You can
Yeah.
foreshadow another motion, so you could, if it was this was not to pass, then you could foreshadow another motion in respect to this bus stop, yes.
Point of order.
Oh,
So,
great.
a process question? or
Yeah,
what?
point of order about the process.
So point,
Oh, sorry, I guess it's a question for staff because it might make me withdraw my seconding. Have all sort of investigation
you
options.
can't withdraw your seconding. it's on the
Okay,
table.
I might,
You can vote against.
I can vote against that. Have all options been exhausted in terms of investigation? Because from my understanding is moving it forward or backwards, you've already said it's not appropriate. So delaying it for further investigation into that wouldn't be helpful.
Well, one of the risks with this project is that we have to purchase the shelters before the end of June based on our funding agreement. So we better to deliver the bus stop upgrade as soon as possible because the storage cost is not cheap. So we have other bus stops, not necessarily within this community board area, but in other areas, so we can.
So we can keep it at one conversation at a time. All right, so just remind members, when we're in debate, we're not really asking staff questions, but
Okay, sorry.
no, that's all right, it's good to clarify. So we have a motion on the table, which is moved by Tim and seconded by Alex, which is this motion here. We've had people speak for and against. So I'm gonna put this, so are you foreshadowing a motion?
I was seeking clarification because I wouldn't want to put it forward if there was no opportunity to change anything. And it was around the additional cost to remove the power pole. Is that not an option? We can't, like, that's not part of the process to
We
investigate.
can ask staff to investigate it. We can't make it because we don't have the information. We can't spend the money, you know what I mean? We can ask staff to investigate it.
And then you would come back next month with that advice?
Well, probably not next month. But...
No, we might not see them again on that particular bus stop for a couple of years.
So, well, this is procedural rather than.
This is what, yeah, I mean, that's what I want to clarify. Would that then come back? Because that would be a relatively straightforward question. Is that correct?
Well, we can investigate that.
Yeah.
But I don't probably that it comes next month or the months after because this is just a part of a very big project like installing shelters.
All right, so is this a procedural?
I don't know.
Okay.
Good one.
Or I'll let you know.
Can we actually just foreshadow a motion to investigate it further?
You can do that. You can, so we would be declining this if it failed. Or you could amend or no, we can't, no. So you would have to, you're relying on, if this were to fail, then you can foreshadow a motion to investigate.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just for clarity, and I think what staff is also trying to say is, if you ask staff to investigate, it's not coming back as part of this project.
No.
Because there's no budget for it.
Okay.
So it will be status quo until staff can come back when a budget is available. Because this is a small portion of a bigger project. The funding will have been spent and the bus stops distributed across the city.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Well, similar.
All right, so I am going to put the substantive here, and we'll vote on that. So, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, I need a show of hands, please. So all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that is passed.
So yes.
Six.
No, I thought he was going to go.
Okay.
And all those against, just to be clear.
Vote for the resident.
So, sorry, I don't do that. Well, that's out of order. Right. Okay, so that is carried. Right, so now we move to
Absolutely.
item number 9.
This one.
We'll just let
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
The rest of the meeting has to be quick. I've one question.
I'm having a second to speak if it's being put.
So, just remember that there are student people driving around the city looking for unused disability parks. So just be warned. So we have a move by Celeste and seconded by Alex. Does anybody want to?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes, you can. We are coming, we're at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. Well, just with this one, there had been these car parks up there and the lines kept failing. And last time I got them actually painted in again, I thought there were 2 car parks on that for each side. Two accessible ones.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's only ever been one on either side, but I can definitely look into that, yeah.
Yeah, because I just understood that there was 2, and when they painted them back on again, in stronger colours, because they fade, they painted back on 2, I had thought, I could be wrong.
Right.
I am in support of this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. You have another question?
Yeah. Oh, I was just, sorry, my process one again. I'm happy if Celeste is to potentially say that if there is 2, that, you know, the plan includes 2. If, you know, if staff come back and find out that there are 2 on one side and 1 on the other, then I'm happy for there to be 3. I don't want the motion to remove a park. So I'm not too sure I'm happy for anyone to wordsmith that after this, but just the intent, if it's less happy. Yeah.
Do you have any advice on that? I mean, the thing is, if the advice is, if the resolution says like it formalises the informal disability access parking, then that will cover that. So it could, if it took out the number.
Sorry, where are we?
So where is it? Pros and cons.
If, however.
Yeah, we'll just have to have a noting provision.
Noting provision?
Yeah, so you have some words there, Tim.
If, however, there were originally 2 for sale car parks on the big side, then we asked for them both to put back.
So eloquent.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we'll leave that.
Thank you.
So, we can have that because it's, as long as mover and second are happy with that, yes. Yeah, you have a question about this?
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the past, we've asked for some advice on painting this mobility parks blue to discourage people from parking in them. And I just wondered if that was considered as part of this, or if we can get that considered.
No, I'm not too sure, but we have to follow the traffic control devices manual, which is like set out across the nation as our like standards. So yeah, my understanding is that yellow is what is done.
Right. I'm just aware of other councils, we have actually painted them in blue.
Right.
Yeah. If this was going to, this seemed a citywide initiative, I mean, I'm totally supportive of that as someone with a disabled son, but I think this seems like a citywide issue. So can we, let's focus on that. So I'm going to put this now. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. And now we have again the Te Kurawi Street proposed. So it's moved by Kelly, seconded by I think Greg might have been here. Going to put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Is Toby here?
I'm just trying to connect with him.
Move this to.
So while we're waiting, if Toby is connecting, we had raised some questions around Bayswater Reserve, and that they've gone and made sure they've consulted with the staff around the network plan, but they've also made sure that there is an actual play space inside there, which is, we didn't want that to be lost.
Right.
So I think that's really good. So I'm very happy with that. And if you're happy with the Waitai one, it seems like we probably don't need Toby.
I have a question on that.
You have a question?
Okay, just give me a moment.
We'll see if, we'll move to the, if you try and get Toby, we can go to the,
to message him.
I need to send him the link again.
Okay, can we go to your report, Chris?
Area report.
Area report, just because other, yeah, so we just,
So yeah, I'll take it as read. The only lots of amazing things that the advisors have all contributed here. The only thing that I'll touch on is you've got the latest monitoring reports in there for the last 6 months, I think it is, for the board plan. Otherwise, yeah, all nice, good stuff that's going on in here.
any questions of Chris?
I was going to say it was a very good report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm always amazed, at just how much gets done out there, so.
Yeah.
Thank you to the team, as always.
I'd love to pay the credit, but it's
Very comprehensive of that.
Oh, no, take it. Moved by Jake.
You have a question?
Yeah, just one question, Chris, in regards to the meeting, because it was a good meeting on the 6th of March around the Portland development. Has there been any response from staff over the landscaping, the timing, because the fence has gone up? And as people thought, it's been covered in graffiti, but the people were just a bit confused about when the timing of the landscaping would be done. I think it was to do with the subdivision consent, but I'm just wondering if there's any further details we can give people as to what happens when.
Do you know anything, Emily, or do you want to follow up after?
Yes, I need to find out, and I've emailed the.
So perhaps rather than do it now, we can send you through the details.
I think it would be useful to be able to just update the residents now that the fence has gone up over what the requirements are for the landscape planning and
So I'm setting up the bonds plan and the response that we got back as well.
Okay.
So I can give you that.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that this report be received? Moved by Jackie, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. So Toby is on the line. Toby, we just have a question about the Waitai.
Yep, kia ora. How you going?
Greg.
On elevation D, in the shade line, the trees are shown in the green section, they should be 10 metres or less, but the ones in the drawings are shown to be larger than that. Can you clarify why that is?
Hold on, I did have the plan in front of me.
You might
I
be
was
on
really
mute,
well
Toby.
prepared. Oh, sorry, hold on a second.
Still can't hear you.
He's probably at home.
I am at home.
It's not saying he's on.
Can he do sign language?
This is microphone on his.
Can you hear us, Toby? Okay.
Is your volume, maybe change your
Wait to a yes,
speaker
no, basically.
Yeah.
Hold on. Audio. Can you hear me now?
There's your volume up.
No,
Shouldn't matter.
microphone.
If you change the speaker to a different one. One of those.
I can hear you guys okay.
I was thinking.
I can answer that. He just drew too big a
Toby?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, there we go. It's always nice when things work.
Terrific.
Right, so I did get your question.
1 second, Toby. We're just going to try and put it back to the big one so everyone can see better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the plan to see exactly which ones you're talking about. Sorry. Bear with me. Are we talking about Waitakere Square?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, just scrolling through the plan. Here we go. And which elevation was it that you were?
Elevation D. So the south edge of the park.
Yes, elevation D. Yep.
From what I can see, the shading colours for the heights of the trees, it showed under 10 metre tree.
Yes.
The ones that are in the drawings were bigger than that.
So I've got sorry, are you saying the elevation isn't the same as what is in the drawing?
The trees that were listed in the drawing for the south edge were larger than what I thought was larger than is listed in the shade diagram.
They shouldn't be. So the elevation D that I'm looking at matches in the sense of that's there to there. I don't think they are. Is there a reason?
It's just a particularly narrow road there, so I was wondering why that was, yeah, the lighter shade of green, unless I got my shade of green wrong.
Yeah, no, the lighter shade is 5 to 10 meters, and if you look at page 124 of the report, it shows the trees and the size of the trees that go into those spaces. So in the blue section, we've got a tree that is a medium tree, so 11 to 15, but in the green, we've got 5 to 10 meter tall trees. Am I following correctly?
Still looking at it, but to me, it was saying that it's a 5 to 10 meter area, but then the trees were currently listed as mediums, which are 11 to 15. So it must be just my eyes picking up the wrong colours.
Yeah, potentially. I will double check that they all match the correct zones. It is important to note that when we do the recession plane, we have the trigger for so as the slope goes up, the beginning of that green section is where that tree height can reach. So that 5 to 10, that beginning of that region is generally the 10 meter zone where it can go up to. So by the time you get to the outside of that green area, you're actually above the 5 to 10 meter zone. But we just kind of make lines at the start of those zones at the top of the height. If that makes sense. I'll go through and I'll double check to make sure that those heights are in the correct areas, because they should be.
Thank you. Toby, I said it before you were on, but I just wanted to thank you for going and looking at the network, sports field network plan, and also making sure that there was that big open space area in the middle of Bayswater Reserve. Really happy with that. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Well, would someone like to move by Kelly? Seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave item 12 until the end.
Yep.
And go to item number 13, which is the New Brighton Project Incorporated. Moved by Celeste, seconded by Alex. Do we have any questions of staff? Okay, no questions. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And then, don't have to leave. There is a Youth Alive Trust. You want to move that? Seconded by Celeste. Are there any questions of staff? Question from Greg.
Why is there only 20 chairs when there's 20 tables?
Assume they've already got.
That's just what they'll ask for.
Big cheers.
Couches.
That's a good question.
Right, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So now we have the YCD. Rory, does anyone have any questions?
No.
No questions. Would someone like to move it then?
Seconded.
Jackie, moved by Jackie, seconded by Tim. You've got a question, Gianni?
Sorry, just obviously the cost of hire is quite expensive. Like they get a screen will be quite expensive, but like if we're going to have regular events, have we considered just purchasing one as a council and then allowing groups to use it with events? It seems like we just
yeah, so we've not considered that from a council perspective. The groups have investigated it themselves to make it a community asset, but the price of it is, hundreds of thousands of dollars from the investigations we've done. So, yeah, it was a point that we thought about.
And just, do we know, I mean, I've run Zoom, so maybe maybe 2 years ago. and it didn't have a big attendance, and obviously it's quite an expensive outlay to do something like this. Do we know sort of what we're anticipating in terms of attendance, like what we're?
Yeah, so the ones that have been running recently with YCD and Kawe Rangisahi have been, and a couple of hundred people have been showing up. One of the limitations, which was the last one that was attended, was the wind. Hence, the reason for this application was that with the inflatable screens, any kind of wind basically makes the movie almost unplayable as the screen's moving around. So part of the reason is to trial with these LCD screens that you can run in sort of rain, hail, wind, anything like that at all.
Feel free to tell me if this is the right place to raise this, but I mean, we've looked, as Yanni mentioned, at these screens for a whole lot of events across the city. Is there a way we can find out what the total amount we've spent on hiring the screens over, say, the past 4 years have been versus the price of buying one? Potentially it's not a conversation we have, but something to, it might not even be you, it might be someone that's civic, but could we look into that, please? Because it would be interesting to see.
Yes, you're looking at, well, this is the first time that we're putting in funding for this, so we could ask the other governance teams and see if others are running similar movie nights and stuff.
I'm only aware of one other community board event, or, I don't know in terms of a civic level whether there's metro events that are hiring them, but in terms of local events, I'm only aware of one other.
Yeah, no, that's right, they haven't answered my question, it's way too good.
All right, well, I'm gonna put that now and move and second it. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And then we have the federal funding, so there's two. There is one for running security cameras and also memorial restoration for the Wolston Volunteer Library. So you'd like to move both?
Both.
Like to move both, and seconded by?
Yeah, unless anyone else wants to. I'm not to second it.
But I would love to second it.
Well, yeah.
Come on.
All right, move by second it. Do you have any questions of staff? Just really cool. And I want to acknowledge that Yanni has been advocating for this for a long time. So how long has this been, Yanni?
A few years.
A few years.
And Emily did it just to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. Yeah, do you want to speak to it before it's?
Yeah, so just so people are aware, like when Phillipstown School closed and then merged with Wolston School, there were boards that were part of the old school, the old Wolston School War Memorial boards that basically had been taken down and basically just been, stored somewhere in the back. So I think it's really cool that this is like a win-win. Like you basically have a community library that's got people coming in. You've got lots of spaces in there that could be populated with the boards. But I have to say there's one board missing, so there's only 3 boards and there should be 4. So hopefully we can find the 4th board, but they do need to be repaired because they've been sitting for so long, and the library's really happy to have them there. And for those board members that have been to the Wolston Library, you'll note in that design, there's a lot of things that incorporate the history of the area. People are really keen to tell the story of the history of Wolston. So this is a really lovely way that we can get a win-win by supporting this. And our facilities team basically are working in that. So thank you to staff for getting this application to us. Yeah, it's a really good.
Cool. Celeste, do you want to speak on the cameras?
I just want to thank staff for the work on this. This is something that's come out of the Community Safety Partnership Group. And we know that one of the areas that we want to increase surveillance is in the mall, and these will be linked to the police network. And the advantage of the way that they've been recommended and they've done the work to figure out who to speak with to get these in the right location is that they'll give us coverage over the key areas of the mall. So at the moment, there's a number of gaps in the network. In fact, I think there's so many gaps, there is no network. So this, as we develop the mall, this will be a vital part of that redevelopment, and I think it'll be a great improvement in terms of safety in the area. So thank you.
All right. Well, in that case, in that case, you've convinced me. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much. And I think that brings us to the last item, so which is item number 12, which I have conflict, so I'm going to be leaving the chair, and then members' information exchange. So I will probably leave. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Staff first.
I'll just foreshadowing it.
Oh, yeah, I haven't even sat down, Kelly, you can mate.
Sort of being early.
Okay, all right,
Scared Paul might beat you to it.
Emily, my question is, I'll take it everyone's taken as read. So for you, Emily, I'd like you to go through the process that you engaged to make your decision so that everyone around the table understands what was behind your decision, please.
Yes, I just looked at the capacity of the people they have on the board and their staff, looked at their organisation as a whole. Essentially, we work with groups a lot to help recruit volunteers, to help them build the capacity of the volunteers, to upskill boards and staff. So we work at all the different layers. So for me, it didn't feel like the right fit to basically employ a business to do a job that for most of our groups is done by volunteers and shared by volunteers.
Okay.
Part of our strategy is to increase volunteering, and we work actively with groups to help support that. So it's just my recommendation that this isn't quite the right fit for
our
community board.
I'll come to you, Alex. My next question is there capacity within your work scope to help them to find an alternative, or do you have ideas of alternative systems that they could use to cover this gap?
As I put in my report, again, we work.
I just want it verbalised.
Oh yeah, we work with groups to help them find ways to recruit other volunteers or to just upskill them. So if it's not a capacity thing around lack of knowledge, can they get extra people on the boards to share that workload? It doesn't have to all fall on one person, a secretary or a staff member.
Excellent, thank you, Emily. Alex?
Am I correct, in light of what we've already approved at this meeting, that currently there's roughly 9,000 left in the funds?
Seven,
I
believe.
7 or 8.
Yeah, okay, cool. Cool, no, that's just what I wanted to
We've
clarify.
got 7,000 left. Any other questions for Emily?
Oh. I was trying to understand exactly what the gap is. Is it primarily sort of, it says in the report, but it's admin, so it's minute taking. So I wouldn't have thought that was, you'd have to hire a private company to do that. That'd be fair to say, like it's something most people can be trained to do.
Most groups, volunteers will share that out amongst themselves. I think they are very big groups. So I absolutely take that into consideration. And they do a heap of work. So slightly different to a lot of the groups we have. They are massive and there is a lot of work, but essentially that role is the minute taking, setting up of the board. Well, what they've asked to employ this external company to do is set up the boardroom, supply the minutes, take minutes, transcribe them, and then sort of arrange and send them out once a month.
So just a final follow-up. Is it a training issue or is it in the request?
It's a time capacity issue, I believe.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe.
So, would this be an annual cost to Actors?
That's my understanding.
An annual cost.
End up coming into their operation.
Okay. Greg, then Alex, then Kelly, then Joe, then Yanni.
And with their board size, do they have a limit on how many people they can have on their board?
That depends on the constitution. I'm not sure what's in the constitution.
The reason I ask
there will be, because there will be a set amount of people in them.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether there was any room for them to have another person added to their board and then them actively to seek a volunteer into the role of secretary.
Potentially, or I know they're trying to move away from using a staff member, but they could employ another staff member within their own organisation, which would be a better fit because they're upskilling within their own organisation rather than paying an external business. That's another option.
Cool. Yeah. Have we all read the letter on the hub from Actors?
Yeah.
Okay. Greg, Alex, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to question in terms of your other, first of all, okay, it's kind of a double barrel. First of all, do we do sort of funding for secretarial positions elsewhere? That's the first part. Do we do it for consultants? Because it is hiring a consultant. Do we have a fund money for a community group to be consulted normally, and is $660 considered value for money per meeting? So that's not including the board review, the strategic COE or the variation work, but it says $6,600 for 10 board meetings, which works out to $660 per meeting. Is that just because it's consulting firms, they're adding, they've got to make money as well, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it's because it's a business, but
Yeah, so in terms of have we given out discretionary response fund money before, or is it practice to do that for a consulting firm essentially, is my first question. Or two.
generally no, it's not, again, everyone's different and every board will be different, so I can't speak to anywhere else in the city, but generally it's not best practice to fund an external.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
So they're trying to build capacity within organisations.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to Kelly, then Joe.
Thanks, Emily. So yeah, I guess my question is, why do you think a competent board like this, with some outstanding individuals would actually request for this type of help?
I think because it's their time thing. I think basically the board are struggling for time. That's why they've delegated to a staff member at the moment. And I believe that they're looking for that staff member to do other work rather than secretarial work. That's my understanding.
So this would be
free up their time.
Essentially for a year. So cover a year.
Yeah, and I understand it would then go into the strengthening communities round.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, given that we have limited funding left in the DRF, are there any other applications coming up shortly that we probably need to consider?
Right. Not that I know of.
So it will get you this fund.
I think that we had a quick discussion about it this morning at the team meeting, and I think there is one or two that are coming in, but they're still in the process of being assessed. So there's nothing sort of
imminent.
Yell at anyone. There's nothing that's like firm as in we've got a recommendation to put to you right now, but that would be taken into account depending on your decisions today. But we do have a couple in the system that we are starting to assess.
Yeah, and is this going to refresh soon, this fund?
So it will be part of your next strengthening communities round, so it'll be available again from roughly September for you to start making decisions.
September, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
That's 5 months away.
Right, Yanni, then Alex.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, yeah, we've got almost half a year to go, and it's not so bad. So, thanks, Alex.
Just to clarify though, if I can,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay, just to clarify.
So obviously the funding runs for the, and again, the advisors can kick me if I'm wrong, but generally it runs till the end of the financial year, so the end of June. So that's when we stop making recommendations. Anything that's left at that point gets rolled back up into the next strengthening communities round. So whilst it seems that long, generally there is that gap between July and September when you set up your next pot anyway. But really you've got another couple of board meetings.
Okay,
So I was just gonna check.
quickly, Yanni.
Yeah, I just wanted to check, with this in regards to, are they doing, like, I thought Actis had an MOU with council to run the facility. So as part of that contract, do we fund them admin support to do that?
We fund, so through strengthening communities, we funded the community development workers' wages.
Right.
More the development operational stuff rather than the board level.
But my understanding when we built this centre, I know it took some time, was there was an MOU signed with Actis to run and manage the facility.
Okay, can we
Yeah.
focus on what's in front of us?
No.
It's like, yes, I understand that, but
we can
look at that
What
later.
I was trying to understand though, is that if they're managing that facility and wanting admin support for the things that they're saying here, which I think is pretty
board.
worthy.
It's the board's not operational.
It's the board. They want it for the board, not for the operation.
It's separate to the facility stuff.
Yeah.
But the board has governance oversight of the running of that facility, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, the operation and running of the facility council, it's not Actis.
So they don't have an MOU with us.
No.
We can, that's separate to this decision, so we can fill you in
Yeah.
outside of it.
Okay, Alex?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So you're saying that normally the round goes to June, and then that money, if it's not spent, goes back into the sports fund for later on. So it's not like if we don't spend this money now, the money disappears, correct? Thank you.
Okay. Kelly?
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment, if I could.
Okay, have we finished questions?
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Kelly's amendment, please.
Yes, so my amendment is to grant them $6,000 towards what they're requesting with the an evaluation done at the end of the year, because I will assume this will give them an opportunity to contribute the other $6,000 that they need to do this for a year, which I think is a sensible compromise. So that will be $6,000 instead of nothing. And with the request for evaluations done at the end of the term, whether it be 6 months or whether they fund the rest for a year.
All right, so you'd like to move that amendment?
I'll second it.
You second it?
Give me 1 moment so I can get the words.
Yep.
Can you then, so Kelly, just on the screen, please. I'm here. And then we want to add that this be reviewed.
Yeah, evaluated.
It should be on the screen.
Can you give me some words, please, Kelly?
7,000.
That
After this.
No.
review as well. Yeah, well, review, fine. You know, that a review is undertaken at the end of the term to quantify the value to the board.
What term? Like bracket September 2025?
No. Yeah, 12 months.
Okay, undertaken.
Isn't it how much you're asking for?
Well, no, they're asking for 12 grand.
Oh, sorry, so it's $6,000, but for 12 months.
$6,000 for 12 months, assuming that they would value this enough to contribute.
Oh, so they had to find $6,000 themselves.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Close enough.
So that a review is undertaken in 12 months to quantify the value to the board. Yeah.
Okay, so
So that was moved by Kelly and seconded by
Tim.
Okay.
Okay, so would you like to speak? Speak to your amendment?
Yep, I would. That's all right. Not all communities are equal. Basically, if you want to help lift this community up, then it starts with assisting with professional governance. This is not a spurious request from an organisation that we deeply respect and appreciate in the city. If they're asking for help with something like this, I think it behoves us to look at it. And I've been around Actis for the last few years. I've been incredibly impressed with the work that they do. I mean, they basically know their community inside and out, and contribute in such a powerful way. If you want to do consultation, do it through them. You'll get much better outcomes. If you want to run a community event in the Aranui area, they're so well connected. I was so impressed once going with them to a school, and I said, why? They were dressed up in superhero costumes. I said, why are you doing this? They said, we want to build relationships with the kids now so that we can speak to them when they're teenagers and when they're vulnerable. And look, I just think they do amazing work. I also think that they sort of cover council in lots of ways. They cover government. They're like a social agency, and they do a lot of work they do unpaid. You know, the reason that the vaccination rate improved substantially in the Aranui area is because of Actis. I think they're an extraordinary organisation.
Okay.
And I think that you know, I think it'd be really important for us to support them with this and let them focus on the business of looking at the people of Aranui and improving their sort of governance structure. And like I say, they wouldn't ask if it wasn't there wasn't a need. And like I said, this community is very different. You look at the people at the hub down there in South Brighton. They run their own community facility. They got grants to set it up. And you've got was it Mount Pleasant Community Centre, which was largely funded and run by locals. The skills aren't always in these communities, and we need to support them in any way we can. Marshland Hall Trust are hoping to build a community in Marshland. That will be run essentially at no cost to the county. And so we should put the money where it's needed. Like I've got a lot of respect for the board and when they ask.
Okay, Kelly, wrap it up. Yeah, easy. Yeah, easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just follow on from that.
Yeah, we get your drift. Yeah,
I'm just going to get my clock out.
okay.
I just fell on that. Actors save the ratepayer and the taxpayer probably millions of dollars a year. So I think we need to support them where we can.
Okay, anyone want to speak again? Okay. I'll take Alex, then I'll take Greg.
I just really want to clarify, there is no doubt about how important the work that Actors is and does in our community. They are a really wonderful asset, and voting against this doesn't mean we disagree with that. But from my perspective, the comments that both the members on the other side of the table raised talk about how good Actors is, but don't talk about what this funding is going to achieve. $660 is a lot of money per meeting. And as the other member mentioned, we don't necessarily have those skills in our community. So let's use this as an opportunity to train them up in-house, give them the resources that we need. And we can do it for a whole lot cheaper than $660 per meeting. Quite a lot of this money is funding a consulting firm, and that's quite concerning for me. I think there are way better options we could use to address this. I'm not going to talk about them because it's not in front of us right now. I just don't think funding $660 per meeting is a good use of money. We've only got $7,000 to $8,000 left in the pot, and we've still got a couple of months left, and that money is returned back to our grants and funds for future use. So I'll be voting against this.
Okay, Greg.
Like Alex, I totally agree. Actors does an amazing job in the community, and none of us are doubting that in the slightest. Personally, I see the use of this money to fund day-to-day staffing and upskilling to fill these roles would give them a longer-term gain. If you were taking that $660 per session, per meeting, and you pay someone $45 an hour, that gives you 15 hours a week to give someone that can do other work in that community for that money and upskill them into that role is something that gives me a lot more positive attitude towards the idea than to giving it to an outside source that is charging their margin and some. And also concerned that it sets a precedent for other groups to request funding for their governance structures as well.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the main reasons why I'll be voting against this.
Okay, you want to speak for or against? Okay.
We don't.
No, we don't need to. Well, we can just put.
Before we put this to the vote, just some clarity, Kelly, community board or the actors board for the quantity by the value?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so we're going to put the amendment that we grant $6,000. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All against? No. I need to see hands for that, sorry. So that's a no, so that amendment is lost. I'd now like to put another amendment. Sorry.
Amendment or the staff rate?
No, I want to put another amendment. I want to put this amendment because I do understand the value of actors and I do understand that they have a problem that needs addressing. So I would like to grant them $1,000 to explore alternative options, either through community government staff or through other staff, to find a different way to work around this as opposed to employing someone from outside. So it gives them some money to work with.
You want to move some words for that, please,
Question.
No, I'm putting my amendment, right? You can wait. My amendment's my amendment. You can have a chance to talk in a minute, okay? I approve a grant of $1,000 from its 24-25 discretionary fund towards the cost of
Point of order.
learning. What's your point of order?
How can we fund a group that hasn't applied for this money? We've got no discretion, we've got no framework in relation to what this fund is going towards against our priorities.
That isn't a point of order. I'm putting an amendment that you can, the process, it's past the process to get here. If you're going to bring up that, then you should have brought it up before we started.
No, it's a process question to your amendment, which my understanding,
I'm amending that we give them less than they've asked for, but more than we've granted.
But it's towards a different thing. Could I have a question?
No, it's not, but
Okay, but I'd like to get that advice clarified as well.
Yeah, so my understanding, and feel free if my team again want to contradict me. So this essentially, this is your discretionary response fund. So it's up to the board how you want to spend this. So if you do want to go down the avenue of, slightly differing from what they were before, there's not an issue of that. What you need to do though is be really clear what this money is going to be used for. Because when we send a funding agreement to Actis, it's a legal agreement, so they have to sign up to it. So you want to be really clear what the expectation is, because they're going to be accountable for that money.
yeah. Ask your question.
I'm open to alternative options, but I agree I would have greater comfort if there was a clearer plan.
Okay.
Is it possible to?
Well, the plan would be kind of the same as what we put forward in the last amendment towards the cost of contracting professional support to teach them how to do that.
No, I just finished that one. Can we ask as part of your amendment for advice on what the option would be before we put money towards it? So for instance, if there was another alternative way of providing support, maybe that would be better to get that advice before we put the funding, because it seems a bit backwards saying here's $1,000.
Yeah,
we don't know what we're
okay.
gonna use it for.
Then
only got one meeting.
if we don't want to put the amendment, then we'll just put the substantive and it will be declined.
No, I think Celeste is suggesting an amendment to your amendment if you're not happy with that, and then Celeste is foreshadowing another amendment.
I think so, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Let's just word this amendment to give them
your
differently.
amendment that's slightly
Yeah.
changed?
Yeah,
to be comfortable
yeah, I'm
with?
happy with that.
So can someone provide me some words,
so-
please?
It would be advice on alternative options to support
So just for clarification, advice from,
staff
okay,
and potentially, I guess, actors. Would you get advice?
In consultation with that.
Yeah, in consultation with actors.
And defer to the next meeting.
Yeah, okay. So then we just understand then.
so advice in consultation with actors
And what's the second part? I don't know.
in relation to
Improving the capacity of the board.
Yeah, cool.
Administrative services.
And that a new funding request, if available,
I think
will be provided.
I think you need to be careful, because it's not always a quick thing to assess for an application to come.
Okay.
And what you will, because you will have, but you would have read in the report already that, staff have said that they'll work with actors on, around, supporting them to develop a plan. So that's already in there as, an action that's going to occur. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure what you're looking for, I guess, in this, because this is what we're going to do anyway, because that's in your report.
Yeah.
It might be picking up on some of the questions that, say, Greg asked about adding on an extra person, and there might be an option of paying that person a bit of a
There might be.
to do some of that extra work rather than paying an external consultants.
I'm just opposed to them bringing such a large application for something that we're declining it out of hand without actually giving them an option to do something else. Or
The staff could talk with them though and come back.
with something different.
So at this stage, we could go with the opposite recommendation with a note
Yes.
that
They can go
staff
back.
work with actors on investigating other options.
Correct.
But
All right,
can I
cool.
clarify that still means we are giving them.
No.
Potentially.
So it declines.
It declines, but then it gives them the option to come back. I just didn't want to decline them out of hand because they're obviously trying to sort out a problem. So I would like to offer them some support to help their problem.
So as a suggestion, if we take the word straight from the staff's matrix, to say, now I've just lost it again, notes that community governance staff will support actors to develop a plan to gradually transition the administration tasks.
Sorry, so develop a plan to
gradually transition the administration tasks to the board if that is the, I think we should probably add something along here, if that is the will of the actors, or if they wish to.
If they wish.
Because again, if they don't want that, it's not on us to tell them how they should do their business.
Yeah.
But what it does is it confirms that the team here are there to support them with this.
Okay.
And there's nothing to prevent actors applying in future. I guess they will have heard the feedback of the board today. So if they want to, they wish to, they can always apply to future rounds if there's something that they can tailor that will meet what the board are looking for.
Yes, I mean, Actis is a very good organisation, but there's also some organisations across the city that were screaming out for funding for things that aren't things that, that they can do for themselves. So in that, I'll put I'll move it. Kelly can second it, and all those in favour of staff recommendation? Aye. That's carried.
Unanimous.
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 Yeah, it was unanimous.
It's the staff one.
It was the staff one, yeah. Okay, so now we're on to, yeah, if there's anything like really urgent, yep, one thing, go. Yep.
Just regarding that email I sent earlier about the suggestion by Roy Ackley about the board writing a letter to the person above him, whoever it was.
Yeah.
Do we agree that we should do that?
Just refresh me, I did read that, I can't remember what it's about.
Staffing the police station.
Yeah, about staffing the new Brighton station. So if we as a board agree, we can actually write a letter to actually request that the station be staffed.
Check with Sam, because
Yeah.
Sam was at the meeting as well, and I think my understanding was that at that time we were writing a letter from everybody, and then next we would do that.
Yes, I think the group's gonna send one first, and then next steps will potentially be each individual group kind of sending one, so that's
Supporting the group.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that would be something carried over until our next meeting to give those people leg up to.
Clarify with that, would Joe have to do a notice of motion to get it on the agenda, because we can't raise it in elected members exchange?
It needs to come from the community safety partnership.
Yeah, could someone just touch base with Joe to make sure we can get it on the agenda, because I know we can't raise stuff during elected members exchange.
We've already raised it through the community safety partnership, so it's
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, so to speak.
For next time it's on the agenda.
No, not the board meeting. You don't need a notice of motion just to write a letter.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
You guys can discuss that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, it's a bit confusing.
No, that's right.
Okay, thanks for a very good meeting. Yes.
If you haven't seen Tina, go and see it.
I got one quick thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to see that. All right, can we just stand for our here, please? Yeah.
It's very quick. Just wanted to, I've been to a lot of the basketball. I just want to acknowledge YCG for the effort they're doing. I just wondered maybe if we could just send them maybe a thank you note.
Okay.
No, wait,
No
it's from,
action.
no, wait,
No action.
I'll just say thank you to YCG. It's really cool. The new Brighton in our local parks.
Okay.
There was one issue with not having net at one of the venues, but hopefully we can have some of it. But
Okay.
just want to acknowledge the good work that YCG were doing.
Ready, te tau,
Te rangi.
o te rangi I te iho o papatuna I taku o te tau, awhi nei, ki au, I a tātou, ti hei, Māori.